Well, you know when our co-hostess is excited, the fabulous Lindsay McQuay, go to Facebook. We're live. We're live on Facebook, and we're going to be live every Thursday. We're all across the country on hometownstation.com, so if you're at home or at the office and you can't get on Facebook because the boss is watching, go to hometownstation.com, listen live. I'm here with Brien Johnson. The show is called AskBrien.com. Go to AskBrien.com. And if you go to AskBrien.com in the next 20 minutes, and just sign up. I don't even care if you use a phony name or phony email. You're going to get a Starbucks card. And how are you going to get the Starbucks card to people?
Well, we can send it through the email.
Through the you can?
Yeah.
Can you send me one? Because I go to Starbucks every morning.
You haven't registered, so I can't give
you want to come meet me? I'm at Starbucks next to Corner Bakery every morning at 8:30. I call it Starbucksville. We've got a group of, older people. I say experienced people, veterans of life were there. Anyway, we're here in Southern California, our hometown station, KHTS AM 1220, based out of Santa Clarita Valley. It is my honor to introduce our next guest. He's a dear friend of mine. I love him. I talk to him probably every week or so. We were partners on a radio show called The Business of Life. He was so good. I said, Billy, you're so bright. You're so good at what you do. Get out of here and go do your own show. So he did. Billy, what was your show called, incidentally?
It was called Brainstorming with Billy the Brain.
Brainstorming with Billy the Brain. He's a graduate from Duke University with honors. His website is Brainstorming Online, brainstormingonline.com. And what Bill Frank did was interview the best of the best CEOs, entertainers. So today we're going to talk about leadership and CEOs. What makes, Bill, let me get right into it. What makes you think, or what makes, let me say it differently, what makes a great CEO based on all the interviews you've had over the years?
Well, based on everybody that I have talked to, and I've talked to CEOs, I've talked to business leaders, I've talked to people that are considered thought leaders in business. I've kind of compiled a list of the top qualities that CEOs have. And these are themes that were recurring through all of the interviews that I did. Probably right at the top of the list is a good CEO forms deep relationships, and that can be deep relationships with his employees, obviously deep relationships with his vendors and his peers as well. And by deep relationships, really what I'm talking about is they care for people, and they really care for people that support their company's purpose. So they're on board 100% if somebody else is on board with them and support their company, support their mission, support their vision. And that's really what charges them up, based on my experience.
Awesome answer. Awesome answer. Brian's going to jump here. Let me ask you one more question. So, of all the famous people, and boy, you had Steve Forbes. You had the best of the best. Which interview still today stands out where you go, wow, that was really a cool interview? Did you do Steve Jobs? No, Steve Jobs had passed away by that time. He was sick and was dying when I had the show, and then he passed away afterwards while I had the show. You're asking me, Coach, to say which of my children I love best, and this is a really, really tough one. But I'd have to say I don't have one. It comes down to two, really. One is Steve Forbes. He and I just were very simpatico. We think very much alike. I've interviewed Steve both on radio and on television. He is a wonderful guy. I can actually get the man to laugh, which is a lot of fun. So he and I cut it up. We have a very, very good time whenever I speak with him. The other is Dan Rather, kind of the opposite end of the political spectrum, which is interesting. But Dan had this phenomenal ability to remember people, to remember instances. So I'd have him on the show, and then I'd have him on again as a recurring guest. And when he came back the second time, he was able to dredge up things that we were talking about on the show previously. So he just had a phenomenal grasp of the facts that we were talking about. He had a good way with people. And we got into some very interesting things because, Dan was branching off at that time. He was out of CBS News. He was starting his own show on cable. And we started talking about the whole idea of citizen journalism, which really lit his fire. He is very impassioned against citizen journalism, but we had some great discussions I don't want to get into it. We don't have time on the show called AskBrien.com, BRIEN. Go to the website. You're going to get a free Starbucks card if you sign up. But I'll have you back on another show because I think what he said I'm totally opposed to. I think citizen journalism is what's going on today. We'll leave that for another day. Brian Johnson, the owner, with his partner, the fabulous Lindsay McCoy. And I say she's fabulous because she's intuitive, innovative, smart. She's one of these ladies that just has a good feeling. And earlier, if you listen to the show, she's the yin to the yang. And I think when you have a good partnership, don't you think that you need to have the yin and the yang? Bill, don't you think, Billy Frank, you need to have the yin and the yang in a partnership?
Absolutely you do. Partnerships have to have that, where you pick up on my weaknesses and I pick up on your weaknesses, and it makes the whole thing better.
But when I have you on my other show, I'm against partnerships, but we'll save that for another day. All right, Brian Johnson of AskBrien, BRIEN. If you go and sign up, Bill, you'll get a free Starbucks card. It'll be sent to you sometime between now and 10 years from now, but be patient. All right, go, Brian. Ask a question of I think one of the smartest, next to you, one of the smartest people in America.
So my first question is, what do you believe are the most important leadership qualities to have as a CEO?
Ooh, that's a good question, Brian. I'd say, again, there are a couple of them, but the thing that I think stands out is good CEOs make decisions remarkably well. And by that, I mean they take calculated risks. They weigh the cost, the benefit of everything that they're doing. They're optimistic, but they're not overly optimistic. They're what I would call realistically optimistic about things turning out better, and they will take those risks. And you notice it all the time, particularly in an economic environment that we're in right now where everything is just turning upside down. You have to take risks. You have to be moving forward, because if you're not moving forward, of course, you're moving backwards. So I'd say that the good CEOs really make those decisions remarkably well. They listen to the input. They weigh the alternatives. They say, all right, based on all of the information that I have at this time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do X. And then they follow the path towards X until either it succeeds or they decide that it's time to abandon it and move on to something else.
Now, have you seen any differences, and I don't know if you've interviewed people, do you see a difference between a startup CEO and a CEO of a corporation that's been around for years and years?
Sure I do. Yeah, I mean, businesses go through life cycles just like people go through life cycles. When you're in the really, really startup phase and you're a small internet company or something like that and you're trying to get going, really what they're focused on more than anything else is cash flow and sales. That's all they care about in those early years. And that early years can be from $0 in sales, maybe even on up to maybe $1 million in sales. Once they hit a threshold, and the threshold will vary from company to company, industry to industry, but once they hit a certain threshold, their focus changes yet again, and it goes from being sales and cash flow driven to being more profitable. That's really what they're focused on, is profitability. And once they get past that, and that can go from, say, $1 million right on up to $100, $200, maybe even $300 million. But once they get beyond that, they start really thinking about how they're going to make an impact on the world. How is my company, my product, my service, how is that impacting the world? What's the legacy going to be of this particular company? What do I want to leave to my successor, whoever he or she may be?
Billy, let's bring this back to reality. Most of our listeners are thinking about opening up lemonade stands like the Coach. Come on, man, $100 billion, if I could make do you know, you do your research and studies, if somebody could make an extra $700 a month, it's life-changing. So let's get down to reality. If somebody's going to start a business and they can make an extra $1,000 or $1,500 a month and pay their mortgage bill or their rent bill, this is what I want to get into. I want to get into basic stuff. So somebody, first of all, we're talking to Billy the Brain. His website is brainstormingonline.com, brainstormingonline.com. And if another cheap plug to Brian Johnson here, the owner of AskBrien, BRIEN. If you go there and sign up, you're going to get a free Starbucks card. But my question to you is, if you were going to start a business today, what kind of business would you start?
Oh, boy. Well, if I was to start a business today, it would definitely be an Internet-based business, and it would probably be selling information products over the Internet. The reason is that the Internet is the perfect delivery system to get information anywhere in the world, cheaply and efficiently. And if I'm selling or giving away info products, well, once you develop an informational product, and that could be a worksheet, it could be an infographic, it could be an ebook, but once you've developed that info product, then it becomes virtually cheap, if not zero cost, for you to distribute that to anybody throughout the world. Your time in an info product is all spent developing it, writing it, getting it together. Once you've got it together, selling it and then distributing it becomes pennies on the dollar, if that. It's virtually cost-free.
Billy, we're live on Facebook, not to interrupt, but go to your Facebook while you're talking to us on KHTS 1220 AM every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Billy, tune in. You can go to hometownstation.com and listen live. So go to your Facebook right now and hit the live button, and you'll see us, see what we look like. You know what I look like. When you look at, you said, I asked the question, what business did you start? You said internet business. That's a great idea. I have a product for an internet business. You guys are going to laugh. What about snake oil, Lindsay McCoy? Would you buy a bottle of snake oil if I could package it properly?
I absolutely would. I'm into that weird stuff.
Hey, now.
It has Chinese medicinal purposes.
I'm starting to like you, girl. Snake oil.
Coach and Lindsay, you may get a kick out of this. One of the sponsors that I had when I had my radio show was literally a snake oil company. What they did was they milked the venom out of poisonous snakes, and they turned it into medicine. Prior to World War II, this is how antiseptics were made, was from snake venom. And they were selling it. They were a sponsor of mine. I won't mention their name because they're no longer a sponsor of mine, but I will say that I have sold snake oil in the past.
Whoa, that's why his name is Billy the Brain. That's why I nicknamed Billy the Brain. His real name is Bill Frank. And I'm sitting, it's so neat, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm the dummy in the group, and I'm sitting to one of the smartest guys in America, Brian Johnson of AskBrien.com, BRIEN. If you go there, you're going to get a free Starbucks card. And I'd love to have you throw in a McDonald's, you little cheap guy. But and, of course, on the line from us here in Southern California, I can't tell you his location because he's in the home protection thing, but it's Brainstorming Online. And if they go to brainstormingonline.com, what are they going to see when they get there? Some of your old interviews?
Yeah, it's an archive of all of my interviews that I've done over the years, and they can look them up. If they're interested in business, there's a way to sort just to look at the business interviews. If they're interested in the entertainment, they can go and sort through and look in the entertainment interviews, all of the stars that I've talked to and things like that. Or if they're interested in sports, politics, however they want to break it down, I've got a way for them to just sort out the interviews that they're looking for.
Lindsay, do you have a question? See you there.
I have a lot of questions.
Pick your best question, because Brian's chomping at the bit. Pick your best question right now.
Well, I'm eager to ask Bill about disruptive marketing and his take on that.
Great question. And explain to our listeners, or Bill, you explain, what is, I know what disruptive marketing is, but what is it?
Well, disruptive marketing is marketing and advertising that is contrary to traditional marketing and advertising. For example, most of us are familiar with newspaper advertising, radio, TV advertising, that kind of thing. But disruptive advertising bypasses all of that, gets directly to the consumer, and it's usually delivered electronically. It can be through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Apple's got its own disruptive advertising channels. But it's a huge, huge business out there. Google, which is now called Alphabet, is the parent company, just announced their earnings today, as a matter of fact. And one of the surprisingly bad things was that their disruptive/online advertising revenue was down. So that really killed the stock's performance in after-hours trading, because they announced that, hey, our bread and butter, which is online advertising, isn't performing as well. But, Lindsay, to answer your question directly, I think that disruptive advertising is probably the biggest single invention in the marketing business world that we've seen in the last 100 years, really, since advertising was around. I mean, if you think back to the 19-teens and the 1920s, you had radio, you had magazines, you had newspapers. That was about it. And those were mass media. In other words, you reached a ton of people, but they may or may not have been the ideal people. Whereas with disruptive marketing, you can target down to the gnats behind exactly who you want to reach. So if you want to reach women age 18 to 45 that live in zip codes 93001, 93012, whatever the zip codes are, you can get that specific. And what's more, and very interesting to me, is you can advertise to people based on their interests. Now, this is where something like Facebook really comes into play, because Facebook tracks your interests based on what you click on, based on what you like, what you comment on. They know what you like. They have algorithms that are built into that. So if I want to look for somebody who, for example, listens to the Brien Johnson Show, if you've identified...
AskBrien.com, B-R-I-E-N, AskBrien, on KHTS 1220, Bill.
If you've self-identified, that you listen to AskBrien, then Facebook knows it, and you can target just those people that listen to that show. It's phenomenal. It's amazing the precision with which you can zero in on a person. And what's nice is that the other 99 million people in the world that you might reach with traditional mass marketing, they don't get bothered with the ad. But the person who is most likely to respond to it is the one that gets the information presented to them when they need the information. It's phenomenal.
Right. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back every Thursday at 2 o'clock, and we get really the great guests, people that, like I said when I started the show, Bill Frank, this show's not for the timid, it's not for the shy, it's for people that want to do better in their life, because we're going to get people like Bill Frank on that will stimulate your thinking. So if you're thinking about opening a lemonade stand like I am and sell snake oil, maybe you and I go into partnership, Lindsay, although I don't like partners.
I would love to.
Well, yeah. I think you need a written agreement.
We do well.
Yeah,
we'll need a written agreement.
We'll be right back. Brien Johnson of AskBrien, B-R-I-E-N, has a question that might just knock you down. So if you're driving, pull over to the right. He's going to ask Bill Frank the question of the year. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Peter just said we got a caller, Peter, and we don't want to take calls, Peter. So it's nothing against you, but when I get Bill Frank, and he's hard to get, he's on radio all over the country. His website is, what is your website? brainstormingonline.com, and you can just hear him the last couple of minutes. This dude is smart. Now, sitting next to me is Brien Johnson of AskBrien, B-R-I-E-N, and he doesn't want to ask the question of the year. He says he wants to save it till next week, because next week's guest is maybe one of the most creative, innovative person that is life-changing. If you listen to our show next week, you may learn something that will put more money in your pocketbook. All right, Brien Johnson of AskBrien, B-R-I-E-N. You're listening to KHTS AM 1220, and you're going to save your question of the year for next year. So what's your second best question?
Well, my second best question is going to involve viral marketing. And if you were a brand new startup company and you wanted to get some viral marketing to get your product or service out known by the public, what would you do?
Well, viral marketing is the holy grail of online marketing and digital marketing. Everybody wants something to go viral. And Brien, there was a time, maybe back in 2006, 2007, where if you just slapped together a little bit of a video pitching your product and put it up on YouTube, because you were the only one out there on YouTube at the time, the thing probably went viral just because there was no competition. Today, there's so much competition from so many well-made advertising pieces and marketing things that are out there that it really is more difficult for something to go viral. But generally speaking, for if a thing to go viral, it needs to reach what Malcolm Gladwell called the tipping point, and that is it needs to have just a few more people talking about it than you originally sent it out to. So, for example, if you've got an email list of 1,000 people and you want something to go viral, if you send it out to those 1,000 people, if those 1,000 people then share it with just one other friend, and you can get them to share it 1,000 and 1,100 times, it goes viral. The long story short is that it's more difficult today to get things to go viral, but there are also more tools out there today to help things go viral. A product that I use personally is something called UpViral. And as the name indicates, it's for helping things to go viral. And I use it on the radio advertising side to try to get more listens for my show, more promos of my show out there. So what it does is it creates a little contest. And it says, if you are interested in this and you share this with a friend, you're entered to win a prize. And, of course, people always want to win prizes, so they go ahead and they share it with a friend, or maybe they share it with two friends. The more people that they share it with, you can set it up so that they get more chances to win the prize. And that way you get your most active listeners, you get your most engaged people sharing this virally, and because they want to win a prize, and hopefully it gets out to more people who share it. And ultimately, if done correctly, you can reach a tipping point where your 1,000 people that you originally sent it to all of a sudden becomes 1,500. It becomes 2,000, maybe even 3,000, and the thing has gone viral.
So is it upviral.com if I go there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking you and I don't want to have a partnership with you. We can rent each other. But I'm thinking you know so much about the coolest apps, the coolest websites. Why don't we sell this information instead of giving it away for free every week on AskBrien.com? We're stupid to do this, Bill. We should start something. AskBrien, BRIEN.com. If you go there, Bill, go there right now. Sign up. You're going to get a Starbucks card sent to you by email. I don't know how that works. You're going to have, Brian, you're going to have to teach me how to do that.
There's a lot of things I need to teach you.
Yeah, no kidding. You can send a Starbucks card by email?
I've sent, how many times I've sent Amazon cards to people?
You need to teach me. Or Billy can teach me. If you're too busy suing people, you can teach me. You're
not on my list right now to sue.
I'm not? Oh, boy, that's great. Oh, great. Lindsay McCoy, isn't this a great guest? We need...
Thank you.
You're a great guest, but...
she's a host.
And a guest.
Oh, I didn't know you were talking about Bill. Oh, sorry.
So, what of all the things Bill has said in the last few minutes, what interests you the most about Bill Frank?
I just think Bill is so well-rounded. I asked him a question while we were on break, and it had to do with the restructuring the way that CEOs are hiring employees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he had a really great response to that. Bill, I don't know if you would like to just reiterate what we discussed.
It's a fascinating topic, Lindsay. That's what captivates me most. In all of the interviews that I did, talking to different CEOs and different business thought leaders, a recurring theme came up about the problem in the workforce today, and that is multi-generations. This is the first time in human history that in recorded history, that we've had 4 generations in the workplace at the same time. We've got the traditionalists, like Coach's generation.
Whoa. Slow it down, son.
We got the boomers out there. We have Generation X, and we have millennials. All exist in the workplace at the same time. And the challenge is that they all have different motivations. They all have different aspirations. They're all dialed into different things. So if you walk into a meeting today, for example, you can see the generational divide. The baby boomers and the traditionalists, they'll sit down in a meeting with a pad of paper and a pen, and they'll be taking notes. Whereas the boomers will be in there bent over with their phone in their lap, and they're texting somebody and probably surfing on Amazon, buying something while the meeting's going on and not paying attention to whatever it is that's being discussed. But CEOs and the thought leaders are saying this is the biggest problem that there is, because there's no real solid communication between the CEOs, who are generally more vintage and generally have more experience, but they don't understand the technology. And then baby boomers on the other end of that spectrum, they get the technology, but boy, do they lack in some of the business skills and some of the social skills. So a CEO can ask a Generation X or Millennial a question about technology, they'll get an answer. They may not understand what the answer is, but they'll get an answer. And it just shows the great divide between the different generations that we have. It's unbelievable.
Billy, our time is up. I'm so honored. I say this, you're a dear friend, but man, I've learned more from you in the last 20 minutes.
Well, Ron, I wasn't done. I had one more question.
We're almost out of time.
How many questions
Can you make it in 10 seconds?
One more. Bill is great. He has a lot of great answers. So, Bill, as far as creative, do you think that employees need to be experts in their field, or do you think they need to be more creative and well-rounded?
20 seconds.
Well, in 20 seconds, I think that everybody is creative, but they need to be deep into whatever their specialty is.
Okay.
They can learn other specialities, but deep in what they do, and then they can be creative within that niche.
Well, as I say, if you want to know more about this guy, brainstormingonline.com, you can find him there. And if you've been listening to the last 20 minutes, this is one guy that can really be an asset. So can the guy sitting to the left of me. Just go to AskBrien.com. You can find Brian Johnson there if you need to talk to him. He's a full-time, very, very, very successful lawyer. So honored that you tune into our show every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Lindsay McCoy, I'm the coach. Coach Ron Tunick. What do? I do business coaching. So I work with mature businesses that get stuck. I work with CEOs that get stuck. And you know, Billy, you just prompted me to do some more research myself. The multi-generational hiring or multi-generation leadership is a real issue today, and I need to spend more time understanding that. Billy, Frank, thank you, pal. See you next week. Thank you, pal.
It's been an honor. Thank you all.
Our honor. Bye-bye. See you next week, everybody.
Thank you.